Mrs. Afton is probably one of the most obscure characters in FNAF lore. We know nothing about her, we don't even know if she really existed, yet some people swear by the idea that her name is Clara and that she ends up possessing Ballora, despite there not really being any evidence for that. But that's why we're making this list after all, because those theories are what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is the Top 10 Scary FNAF Mrs. Afton Theories. Let's do it. And at 10, Clara Afton. The name of Clara Afton has got to be one of the most annoying things in FNAF to me, because nobody treats it like a theory despite it being all that it is. Not even a theory, a hypothesis. The whole Clara Afton thing is just very outlandish to me. Just because there's a name doesn't mean it belongs to anyone. Does that mean that the crying child's name is Vlad because the purple character was named Vlad, or is that William's new name because he was supposed to be purple, right? It's certainly a possibility that her name is Clara, but to me it just doesn't make sense. If we're going to say that the character from The Immortal and the Restless who is named Clara is meant to represent the mother, fine, but my issue is why isn't Vlad named William if Clara is named Clara? He's not named William, so we can't assume that Clara is the mother's name. It wouldn't make sense. I also believe that Clara represents perhaps a mistress or the woman that William didn't want to let into his life after he lost his children, who he may have had another child with, but he didn't want to adopt it or accept it because he had lost so much already, and that's why the whole, the baby isn't mine, that's where that comes from. And at 9, Ballora. There's also a theory that Mrs. Afton goes on to possess Ballora, however I don't like this theory either. Many people who associate the name Clara with Mrs. Afton also seem to believe that she went on to possess Ballora. The reason I don't like this theory is that it assumes too much, okay? It assumes that she was alive when he made the robots, it assumes that she ended up dying in some agonizing way, or at all, when we really don't know what happened to her, and it also assumes that she was around Ballora when she died, or that a possessed object was somehow used when creating Ballora, which would be an incredible chain of events, since we know William didn't know about Remnant at the time he was making the Funtime animatronics. And if Mrs. Afton did end up possessing Ballora, I'm sure William wouldn't have opened up circus babies. And if her death was the reason he had started killing, which we still don't know about, we have no idea why he started killing, but if that was the reason, then seeing a possessed Ballora animatronic with his wife's spirit would actually probably help him. He wouldn't have to kill out of grief because she wasn't really gone. Like, let's be honest, okay? It was in a dummy thick body, no less, so he would have had hella fun with that. Especially when her song can be in reference to another woman in his life, when Ballora's song can be in reference to a different woman in his life, since I doubt that he would have hid inside his walls from his wife, because they would have been her walls too. Even metaphorically speaking. And it ain't Mrs. Emily. Another theory suggests that perhaps instead of his own wife, that the mother of his children wasn't his to begin with at all. That perhaps instead William's children are the result of him either previously being married to or having extramarital relations with none other than Mrs. Emily, Henry's wife and the mother to Charlotte, the puppet. It would also explain a couple things. Why he kills Charlotte first outside of Fredbear's family diner for starters. If that's the daughter of the man who stole his wife and his ex-wife, that would certainly cause some serious issues in his brain, and it would also explain the whole "the baby isn't mine" thing from The Immortal and the Restless. Perhaps his wife was trying to convince Afton that Charlotte was actually his child, but he wouldn't believe it, and again, the whole first kill thing. It's very important when trying to determine behavior of a serial killer to find out why they killed their first victim. If she was a constant reminder of his wife leaving him for another man, it would certainly make sense. And if he was trying to build up the courage to kill her, realizing that she was his child is probably not a good thing, hence the denial. And at 7, doesn't exist. Is it possible that there was no Mrs. Afton to begin with? That William was already crazy and had created these delusions of being in love with a woman whom he made into a robot and having kids who he ended up adopting as a single father, but since he's the owner of a large company like Fazbear Entertainment, I'm sure it would be fairly easy. And with all his connections, perhaps he'd be able to skip a psych eval even if they had one back in the 80s. This would also pull into question the whole animatronics thought that Michael was William at first line from Sister Location, but I mean, hey, there's always the possibility possibility that Mike has been a robot rebuilt in William's image so that he could have a son that actually ended up looking like him, you know? And it could be like, oh, well, I donated some love juice in my 20s so I could make a little cash, and it turns out I have a son. You know, that kind of situation. The mother passes away, so the son gets sent to live with his new family. Explains the whole bullying the younger brother to the point of his death thing as well, but I mean, he would also still be a robot, and I don't know. And at 6, death. There are plenty of theories around what happened to Mrs. Afton. A lot of people believe that she is dead, and honestly, that probably is the most likely scenario. But the interesting thing about these theories comes from how she could have died. A lot of people think that Mrs. Afton died in a car accident, and I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but that doesn't mean it's canon, despite how many people will insist that it is. It still came from a FNAF music video, created by a fan. There are also others that think William killed her, or that she just left him because she found out what he was into, but then for some reason left his prime demographic with him, but maybe it's because they were his kids, she knew he wouldn't do anything. Some also think that she died in a plane crash. Basically, any form of death that you can think of is the way that Mrs. Afton could have gone. Hell, even Sugar Mama who dies of natural causes can be the way that Mrs. Afton went. We can't know for sure. Okay, well technically we can assume that she was under 40 at the time of his children being born if they are biologically Williams, and therefore rule out the whole Sugar Mama thing. But William still had to get the money to start a business or buy a business somehow, right? So maybe William had a Sugar Mama. Hashtag Afton Sugar Mama. There we go. That's the new thing. That's him. That's my headcanon. That's my AU. Is that what the kids say? Halfway through into number 5, divorce. There may also be reasons as to why Mrs. Afton isn't in the picture anymore, and the explanation may not be as brutal as you'd think, or at least hope. Well, at least for her, since I'm sure the divorce would have been brutal on William. The only real way this could be true is if they divorced before William had gone into business with Henry and bought Fredbear's Family Diner, unless they actually had a prenup. However, a prenup wouldn't really be necessary if he didn't have anything to begin with, so we can't quite be sure, and it also wouldn't necessarily count for the acquiring or the acquisition of a business while in the marriage. So, but hey, the not being sure is half the fun, right? Well, the matter could be simple, with William and his wife splitting or getting a divorce for many reasons, but then that could explain why she's no longer in the picture. It doesn't have to be something so dark and depressing, you know? I mean, okay, it's FNAF, I know, but like, come on, it doesn't have to be dark and depressing. It could just be a matter of she cheated, or he cheated, but most likely she cheated, just based on what we know about William as a character. Creating personal relationships isn't really a top priority for him, and neither is keeping them, so maybe the missus just felt neglected, or maybe she was pushed into the arms of another man. So we can't be sure, but it's something we can't rule out. I'm just surprised that William ended up with the kids, if that's the case. That's right, I'm calling you out, judges. And at 4, surrogate. What if the missus who had these babies didn't actually have any relation to William at all? And by that I mean like relations. And instead was simply a means to an end, and their only interaction was in essence a business transaction. Surrogacy is becoming more and more common, with women being unable to get pregnant due to infertility or health issues that would come with having a baby, like Kim Kardashian for instance. But it wasn't really all that common back in the 80s as far as I could tell. I mean, I can't be sure, I wasn't alive then, and if you did need it, I'm sure it would have cost a lot. Assuming that William was already making money off of Fazbear Entertainment and Circus Babies Entertainment and rental, maybe he decided that he wanted a kid, so he paid someone to be artificially inseminated, which could explain the whole "the baby isn't mine" line from Vlad, since this kind of procedure could result in William not associating his genes with the kid, since he didn't go through the whole process, I guess you can say. Like, he didn't really get the fun part, and like the dopamine release certainly helps with building a connection, especially when trying for a baby. I mean, like, at least I'd assume so. Like, I'm not sure. I don't have any children. Despite other jokes I may have made on this channel, I don't have any children. Hey, even though apparently some of my TikToks are an issue of minor safety when it's just me, so maybe I am the child and I just don't know it. Maybe I haven't been alive for 22 years, and instead I time traveled to years in the past without knowing. Getting close to the end into number 3, psychopath. Then there's the possibility that she's just a psychopath as well. However, it doesn't mean that she was committed to the same goals as him. Maybe she just wanted to go nuts and kill as many adults as she could, but William was like, no babe, we gotta kill the younglings like Anakin. Or she was just the inspiration behind his delirious schemes. Maybe she was the one who gave William the idea about finding the answer to life and death, and the closer the kid was to the beginning of life, the more answers he would get. I mean, it's a stretch and it has no evidence, but hey, just like Clara Afton. But, like, in my Comic Sans brain, it's not that bad of an idea, right? It's still within the realm of possibility. The possibilities with a character we know nothing about are endless, with anything being possible. Like, perhaps William started killing after she died because he wanted to complete her goal, or there was supposed to be some ritual that he wanted to use to bring her back or something that she told him about. She could be like a freaking witch, for all we know. But ultimately, and in number 2, the reason. What if Mrs. Afton was the catalyst to all of this? What if she was the one who pushed William over the edge, gave him the ideas, gave him the kids, and then vanished, or died, or left him, whatever the case may be? What if Mrs. Afton was the one behind it all? I mean, honestly, a combination of these theories from this list could be true. She could have been a psycho who was just a hallucination after she died and possessed ballora. There's so much in the realm of possibility here that we can never really be certain unless we get told directly by Scott, or whoever takes over next. But perhaps William was driven to killing by his wife, be it directly or because of her death or their split or because she was just horrible to him. It would explain why he doesn't want to hurt his kids despite being a certified nutcase. But the closest kid to William other than his own kids would have been Charlotte, hence why she was first. If the mother died or divorced him, his children would be the last things that he had that connected him to the love of his life. So it would make sense why he would try to protect them and shut down when they got killed, resulting in him building a third one to try and keep that tiny part of his wife alive. I think there's still some potential here, but I'm not going to say that I believe anything until it's confirmed, because people are going to get mad at me either way. Finally, in at number 1, Vanessa. The final theory today is the classic Vanny is Mrs. Afton. Now, I know that this is definitely not going to be true, since Vanessa is way too young to be Mrs. Afton, but like, hear me out, okay? If Vanessa turns out to be a time traveler, could she be Mrs. Afton? Or better yet, could she be William's granddaughter thanks to my theory about the 4th Afton kid? Or straight up, maybe Vanessa is Mrs. Afton's other daughter that she had years after leaving William. She could have been in her 20s when she married him, especially if it was for his money, so she could reasonably have a kid this age in 2021 if that's when the game does take place. I mean, it would certainly be pushing it, but in a series full of time-traveling ball pits, possessed animatronics, and even possessed people that can't die, I don't think that leaving any stone unturned is a good idea. Also, I included this number for the thumbnail because I know a lot of people are going to click on it just to say that she's Clara, not Vanessa, so I wanted to make those people mad. There we have it, friends, the top 10 Scary FNAF Mrs. Afton theories. Which theories do you believe the most, and what obscure character should we talk theories for next? Be sure you let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and Shower Man Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. And if he was trying to build up to kill her, he would definitely... What the f was that?